Our guest, the House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Thank you so much for being here, sir. I do want to start on the meeting that the president is having today shortly. In fact, they're beginning to talk to each other as we speak, and that is about tariffs. My question for you is whether or not you see any situation where tariffs are a useful tool. President Biden, of course, kept many of President Trump's first-term tariffs in effect.
No, Dana, great to be with you. As many of us have said on the Democratic side, tariffs, when appropriately utilized to promote American competitiveness, American jobs, as well as American businesses, can be one of several tools that the U.S. government can use in ways that are designed to help elevate economic prosperity. That's not this in terms of what is taking place. Donald Trump is clearly crashing the economy in real time, and he's driving us toward a recession. The manner in which these tariffs have been unleashed on the American people will result in the largest tax increase on everyday Americans since at least 1968, and it's going to cost everyday Americans over $4,000 per year if these tariffs are fully implemented. And that clearly is a problem. That's not what the American people signed up for.
And I know that you and other Democratic leaders believe that the best way back to the majority in the House, which is your number one political goal, is to focus on bread and butter issues. The economy, even sort of an extension of that, potential cuts to Medicaid is a big part of what you're talking about during this recess, and you will continue to do that because in 2018, focusing on health care got Democrats the majority back. Is that where you are convinced the Democratic energy is right now?
And this is not about the 2026 midterm elections. That is going to be important, and the political calendar will take care of itself. I've been in the district over the last few days. We had a town hall meeting that was incredibly well attended on Tuesday, and the issues that were brought up to me by the people that I'm to represent include the attacks on Social Security, the attacks on health care, the failures of this administration related to the economy, and the fact that everyday Americans, in so many cases, are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. This is what is on the minds of the American people. Earlier today, as part of the House Democratic Medicaid Matters Day of Action, I met with constituents at a community health center in Bedford-Stuyvesant, who some of whom were in tears because of the concern that their health care could be ripped away, which would impact their ability to receive the treatment and the medication and the interventions that they need to survive. This is a life or death matter for many of the people that I represent and folks all across the country. And so that's why, as Democrats, we're focused on these issues.
Now, earlier this morning, I was just speaking about this with Jeff Zeleny. The president lashed out at the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. He posted, quote, "Powell's termination cannot come fast enough," and that Powell should lower interest rates. Now, a lot of economists are warning that we are heading for a recession. I just heard you mention that. You blame the president, but given those warnings, regardless, is the president right that the Fed should lower interest rates?
Monetary policy in this country, and then we have fiscal policy. And the Federal Reserve has been set up to manage monetary policy in a manner that meets the needs of the American people and meets the moment. And Chairman Powell, who is a Republican, is someone who should be left to do independently what the Federal Reserve has been set up to do. The problem that we confront in this country is that Donald Trump, this is someone who promised to lower costs on day one. Not my words, his words. That he was going to deal with the high cost of living in the United States of America. And yet, we haven't seen from these Republicans a single bill, a single executive action, or a single administrative order designed to actually lower costs. And in fact, we know that costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflationary pressure is going up. Consumer confidence is going down. The retirement savings is going down. And the economy is going down as well because of the reckless fiscal policies of Donald Trump and House Republicans.
So, I totally hear what you're saying about the Fed being independent, but it has not stopped politicians, not just Donald Trump, but politicians on both sides of the aisle from having an opinion on where interest rates should be. You want to weigh in on that?
We all want to lower interest rates in terms of the impact that that has on everyday Americans. But that ultimately, of course, is going to be a decision that the Federal Reserve will need to make. It certainly is something that should always be a consideration, but we have a broader issue that we need to confront in America, which is the high cost of living. That, of course, impacts housing costs, its grocery costs, its childcare costs, its insurance costs, and its utility costs. And the Republicans haven't done a damn thing to address it, despite all of their talk, all of their promises made to the American people last year. We're ready as Democrats to try to do something in this area, but we have no Republican partners.
I want to turn to the administration and the judicial branch of the United States government. The Trump administration is finding ways to defy the courts on a few fronts right now. One is refusing to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Another example is continuing to block the Associated Press from covering the president, despite a judge ordering the White House to treat the AP like other news organizations. Sir, I know that you have said that the president defying court orders would create a constitutional crisis. Are we there?
I think what we need right now is certainly, we're in a crisis across the board, right? I mean, that is obvious for everyone to see. This is not normal. The president is assaulting the economy, assaulting Social Security, assaulting healthcare, assaulting the American way of life, and assaulting our democracy. None of this is normal. It is all a crisis. Now, with respect to what we need to deal with in terms of the situation with the courts, the Supreme Court needs to aggressively enforce its judicial orders. The White House is seeking a confrontation with the courts, then the courts need to lean into that. We will have the back of the courts, and it needs to use all of the tools available to it, like contempt,
for example,
in terms of the people within the administration who are failing to adhere to these judicial orders or who are actively continuing to propagate unlawful or unconstitutional actions at Donald Trump's direction.
Well, we did see one example of the threat of contempt yesterday. A federal judge did that with regard to those flights that left after he signed an order saying that they shouldn't go. But you think that that threat should go all the way up to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land?
Well, in the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia, there was a Supreme Court decision that was issued. And so when you have a Supreme Court decision that was issued instructing the administration to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's return, and it seems to me that ultimately the court is going to need to aggressively enforce its decision. When you've got lower courts who have issued orders, then of course the jurisdiction will fall with them.
I just want to make sure I am understanding you right. Are you saying that the Supreme Court should hold President Trump in contempt, should hold his cabinet members who were involved in this in contempt?
The Supreme Court needs to take a close look at enforcing its orders, and that is generally going to involve not the president, of course, at this moment in time, but it's going to involve cabinet secretaries and other administration officials who are responsible for the actual execution of these orders or the non-compliance.
How is that not a constitutional
of course, the courts are going to have to be. I said that we are in a crisis across the board. We are in a crisis across the board in every way possible, including the assault on the democratic way of life. Now, the courts are going to have to aggressively enforce we are in a crisis. We've apparently been in a crisis, I think, since January 20th across the board. We're in an economic crisis. We're in a democracy crisis. We're in a crisis as it relates to the assault on healthcare, the assault on Social
I,
Security. None of this is normal.